So one way of approaching bioregionalism is seeing bioregionalism as a platform for decolonization, reinhabitation, and resolution. And that resolution is the resolution between indigenous and settler communities. Peter Berg and Raymond Desmond and Gary Snyder emphasizes reinhabitation, which means returning to the understanding how to live in an environment and living well. David Greenwood, who is a scholar who's focused on indigenous education, has written that decolonization and rehabilitation are really the flip side of the same coin, that you have to have them together. And then you can break decolonization down to 3 M's, which stand for mind, mass, and metropole. Mind being, of course, the brainwashing that goes on with colonialization. Mass being how the land has physically been changed, the construction of dams, the sucking out of resources, mining, logging, all that is the mass. And then the final part is the metropole, that relationship between the colony or the colonized and the metropole being the mother city, because colonization usually has a mother city. And that's a parasitical relationship in which the mother city, the metropole, is really kind of a parasite on the host, which is the colony. And that this history of that goes all the way back to Babylon in some ways. It's also, the Athenians and the Greeks having colonies, the Romans having colonies, and eventually the British having colonies, the United States having colonies, and always these mother cities being fed by the colonies. So again, decolonization, and then for me, I've written what I call the 5 active L's of reinhabitation, which is active listening, active learning, active living, active localization, and ultimately active liberation. And it's not just for the colonizers or the settlers that reinhabitation is for. Reinhabitation is relearning how to live with a place. So it's also for indigenous people who have had that break between generations, who have had their people colonized with boarding schools, with being forced to only speak one language, whether it's English, Spanish, French, or whatever. It is about their culture being destroyed by being forced to take an alien religion for them, or being forced to think economically different from their traditional ways of seeing things. So reinhabitation is really for everyone to relearn, to listen, to live and localize that knowledge with a knowledge that would make you live healthy in that environment, would sustain your population in a healthy way in its relationship to the ecosystem. So then we have reconciliation. These three things are actually Alexei Scully writes them in 2012. I've altered from her version. I have my own version of it, but it's still decolonization, rehabilitation. For her, it's reconciliation. I've changed it to resolution because resolution is a process between conflicting parties and getting them to come to a conclusion, come to a resolution. So I've switched it to that because I break down resolution with at least 3 core R's. There are other R's to this, but the 3 core R's are redemption, in which the perpetrators of violence, the perpetrators of oppression, must honestly seek redemption, must honestly look for ways to undo the violence that they've done, whether that is naming a place back to its original name, or naming or acknowledging a history that's been suppressed, or maybe revitalizing a language that's been suppressed, or supporting a community that's been suppressed and supporting them to return or restore themselves, which is up to them whether they want to restore that culture, because it's always up to the victim of what they want to do. So that's redemption. And then there's remission, which is a academic way of saying apology. That doesn't necessarily, you cannot force somebody to ask for an apology, but that is where the victim is accepting an apology. And then the next phase is reconciliation, which is the process of dealing with conflict in a post-conflict environment. Yeah, just for clarification, I hope people realize that remission isn't that the victim is apologizing to the perpetrator. It is that it's up to the victim whether they wish to accept the apology of the perpetrator. And with that, there are some other core things such as, from the perpetrator, and that's honesty, and that's, whether they're really serious about this redemption. I have actually a whole, I think, 4 A's about that. Yeah, the 4 A's of redemption. Acknowledgement. This is the perpetrator to the victim. Acknowledgement of what's been done. Authenticity with that acknowledgement. Accountability, being accountable for your actions, and then the action itself. Actually, sure, you say that we're going to take down a dam and stuff like that, but you should really take down that dam then. Don't just simply, it's not about just mouthing apologies, it's about actually doing the actions of an apology. So I think those are the 4 A's I've come up with, and I glean that from other people as well. I mean, other people have like 3, and it's like, wait, you could add this one to it and stuff, but that's my list of 4 A's of basically redemption.